There's a moment that happens in thousands of homes every single day, and almost nobody notices it for what it actually is. A cat walks into a room, looks at its owner, and does something so small, so quiet, that most people just smile and move on with their day. But that tiny gesture? It's actually a verdict. It's your cat's private, unspoken evaluation of you as a caretaker. And most owners will never even know they passed the test. Because here's the strange truth about cats. They don't perform affection for an audience. They don't fake it for treats the way dogs sometimes do. When a cat does certain things, it's not because it wants something from you in that instant. It's because some deep, ancient predator brain part of them has already decided you are safe. And that decision shows up in 8 very specific, very deliberate behaviors. If you've ever wondered whether you're actually doing this right, whether your cat secretly sees you the way you hope they do, stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to look at your cat completely differently. Cats have a reputation, mysterious, aloof, unreadable, that's partly earned, but not for the reason most people think. Dogs evolved alongside humans for tens of thousands of years as cooperative hunters, so their emotional vocabulary was built to be understood by us. Cats didn't evolve that way. They domesticated themselves on their own terms, drawn in by rodents and shelter, not a desire to please anyone. So every signal a cat gives wasn't designed for your benefit, it was designed for survival. Which means when a cat bends one of those ancient instincts just for you, it's enormous. Something in their nervous system has rewritten the rule book, and you are the reason. The problem is, because these signs were never meant to be performed for a human audience, most owners walk right past them every day without realizing what they're witnessing. So let's go through the 8 signs, one at a time, that separate an owner their cat merely tolerates from an owner their cat has quietly, completely chosen. Sign 1. Vulnerability and deep physical trust. Forget purring for a second. Even nervous cats purr sometimes as a self-soothing mechanism. The real marker of trust lives in how your cat positions its body around you. Exposing the belly or throat is an act of extreme vulnerability. Those are the spots a predator would strike. That's why most cats sleep curled into a tight defensive ball, even in a home with 0 threats. So when you see a cat sprawled fully on its back, belly exposed, paws loosely splayed, you're not looking at a relaxed cat, you're looking at one that has run a subconscious threat assessment of you, specifically, and concluded you pose 0 danger. Think about where your cat sleeps, tucked against your side, back pressed into you so they can't see what's behind them. That's a cat outsourcing their vigilance to you. The same cat might sleep tightly curled when alone in another room, but the moment they're near you, that guard completely unravels. That shift, from guarded to unguarded only in your presence, is reserved almost exclusively for owners who have never once made that vulnerability feel unsafe. Sign 2. Feline CO regulation and emotional mirroring. Cats are far more emotionally attuned to their owners than the independent loner stereotype suggests. And one clear proof is something behaviorists call co-regulation, a cat's nervous system syncing with your emotional state. If you've had a brutal day, sighed heavily onto the couch, and your cat appears out of nowhere to settle against you unprompted, that's not coincidence. They're reading your stress signals and choosing to close the distance. Insecure cats tend to do the opposite during tension, retreating from unpredictable energy. A cat that moves toward your distress instead is performing an act of emotional labor that only happens when the bond feels deeply safe. There's a quieter version of this in routine too. Bonded cats often sync their rhythms to yours, waiting by the door near the time you usually get home, napping when you sit down to work, growing restless when your schedule breaks pattern. No one trains this. It's a cat treating your presence as the anchor point for its own internal clock. Sign 3. The subtle language of gazes A&D vocal chattering. Cats barely meow at each other at all. Meowing is a language they largely built for humans. But within that, there's an even smaller set of expressions reserved for specific, trusted people. The slow blink is the best known. A direct look, eyes closing gently, held a beat, then reopening, often with a soft squint. Since closing your eyes during a stare down is a vulnerability in the animal world, doing it voluntarily in front of you is a gesture of total disarmament. Cats reserve it for people who've never given them reason to stay on guard. Then there's chattering. That rapid jaw movement many cats make watching birds. Long assumed to be pure predatory instinct, but plenty of owners report their cats chattering directly at them, especially when a beloved person walks through the door. Some behaviorists now believe this is an overflow of high arousal affection with nowhere else to go, an emotional short circuit reserved for the people a cat feels most intensely bonded to. Sign 4. Scent marking AS-AN invitation, not just ownership. When your cat rubs its head against your leg, most people read it as simple affection, and it is, but the mechanics are more fascinating than they realize. Cats have scent glands around the cheeks, chin and tail base, and every head bump deposits their scent onto you. But it's not one way. That same motion also picks up your scent onto their fur. Over time, repeated rubbing blends your scent and theirs into a shared chemical signature, sometimes called a family perfume. In multi-cat households, cats who genuinely like each other constantly rub to maintain this shared smell, while cats who merely tolerate each other avoid contact entirely. When your cat keeps choosing to blend its scent with yours, it's literally writing you into its definition of family at a biochemical level. That's also why a cat can seem extra clingy right after you've been somewhere unfamiliar, like the vet your scent has temporarily broken from the shared signature, and they feel a real need to re-blend it. Sign 5. Proactive inclusion in play A&D rest. Cats are solitary hunting predators with instincts built around fiercely guarding personal space, especially during rest, the most vulnerable state any animal experiences. So when a cat rewrites those instincts to make room for you, pay attention. A cat that merely tolerates a human plays in short, transactional bursts before walking away. A cat that's fully bonded will initiate play itself, dropping a toy near you and waiting, almost insisting you join, turning a solitary predatory exercise into a shared ritual. Some cats go further and bring prizes, a sock, a hair tie, even real prey outdoors, not a gift in the human sense, but an ancient provisioning instinct, which places you in one of the most intimate roles a cat can assign. And then there's rest. A cat choosing to sleep touching you, back turned, fully exposed and unguarded, is the highest expression of safety a cat can offer. They've suspended every defensive instinct evolution gave them, specifically for you. Sign 6. The tail-up greeting with a quivering tip. Watch how your cat approaches you when you first walk into a room. A cat that's indifferent to you might glance over and stay put, tail low or wrapped tight around its body. But a deeply bonded cat does something very specific. It walks toward you with its tail held fully upright, often with just the very tip trembling or curling slightly, almost like a question mark. This posture is borrowed directly from kittenhood. When a kitten raises its tail as a signal to its mother, letting her know it's approaching peacefully and wants contact. Most cats drop this behavior as they mature, reserving it only for situations of real safety. When an adult cat still greets you this way, tail high, tip quivering with what almost looks like excitement, they are using the most vulnerable. Most open body language in their entire repertoire, the feline equivalent of walking towards someone with both arms open. It's a greeting cats don't extend to strangers, and rarely even to other cats outside their closest companions. Sign 7. Allogrooming when your cat grooms you back. In the wild and in multi-cat households, grooming another cat, called allogrooming, is one of the clearest markers of a trusted social bond. Cats only groom animals they consider part of their inner circle, because the act requires both parties to lower their guards simultaneously, one giving up vigilance to be groomed, the other giving up the ability to react instantly while occupied. So when your cat starts licking your hand, your hair, or your face, unprompted, they are not cleaning you in any practical sense. They are extending the single most intimate social ritual in feline culture to a species they weren't even biologically wired to direct it toward. This is also often reciprocal in bonded relationships. Cats that groom their owner tend to be the same cats that seek out being groomed back, through chin scratches or gentle stroking along the cheeks where their own scent glands sit. If your cat has ever started grooming you mid-cuddle, seemingly out of nowhere, that wasn't random. That was your cat including you in a circle that, in the wild, is reserved for kin. Sign 8. Needing AN treading on you. That rhythmic paw pressing motion, often called making biscuits, traces back to kittenhood, when kittens knead against their mother's body to stimulate milk flow while nursing. Most cats outgrow the functional need for it almost immediately, yet a huge number of adult cats keep doing it for the rest of their lives, specifically on the people and surfaces that make them feel most secure. When your cat climbs onto your lap, kneads against your stomach or thigh, and settles into a slow, rhythmic press, often paired with deep, steady purring and half-closed eyes, they are regressing on purpose into the single safest emotional state they ever experienced as a kitten. It's a behavior layered with real meaning. It usually only appears once a cat already feels warm, calm, and unthreatened enough to let an old infantile instinct resurface. A cat that doesn't feel safe with you won't relax into that state long enough for the behavior to even begin. Kneading on you is your cat's body quietly telling you that, in this exact moment, you've recreated the closest feeling to maternal safety it has ever known. Here's something almost no one tells new cat owners, and it might be the single most important piece of this entire puzzle. Every one of these 8 signs gets weaker, or disappears entirely the moment you try to force them. You cannot rush a slow blink, demand a belly exposure, or pull a kneading session out of a cat that isn't ready to offer it. The real skill of a great cat owner isn't doing more, it's learning to let the cat initiate, and then responding with calm, predictable warmth every single time they do. If your cat head bumps you, don't immediately scoop them into a full hug. Let the gesture breathe. Mirror it gently back. If they show their belly, resist the urge to dive in for a belly rub, since for most cats that's an invitation to be near them, not necessarily to be touched there. The owners who unlock these behaviors fastest are the ones who treat every small approach their cat makes as something precious, never something to capitalize on. Consistency, patience, and restraint, far more than treats or toys, are what actually build this kind of trust over time. If you recognized your own cat in even one of these signs, take a moment with that, because it means something real. None of this is performance. Cats don't have the social motivation to fake affection the way some animals do. Everything they offer is an honest readout of how safe, how settled, how deeply at home they feel in your presence. The vulnerable sleeping position, the way their body softens against your stress, the slow blink meant only for you, the scent they've quietly woven into yours, the instincts they've rewritten just to include you. None of that happens by accident. And none of it happens for just anyone. It happens because somewhere along the way, in 1,000 small, unremarkable moments you probably don't even remember, you proved to a creature wired for self-preservation that you were worth the risk of letting their guard down. That's not a small accomplishment. That's the quiet, hard-earned proof that you are exactly the kind of owner you hoped you were. And maybe that's the most beautiful part of loving a cat. The bond is never loud, never obvious, never handed to you for free. It's built one slow blink, one shared nap, one small surrendered instinct at a time, until one day you look over and realize the most independent creature on earth chose, completely on its own terms, to stop being alone with you in the room.